Some places do not appear on maps, they appear when the heart is ready. Hidden just beyond the ordinary world, the Enchanted Tea Room welcomes those who arrive carrying grief, a longing, unanswered questions, or a quiet ache they cannot name. Its door opens not by chance, but by need. The bell above the door of the Enchanted Tea Room rang softly one gray December afternoon. It was just a few days after Christmas. It was not the bright, curious ring of someone seeking adventure. It was a thin, trembling sound. Catherine looked up from the tea kettle she was warming. The fire in the hearth glowed low and steady. Outside, the wind moved through the rose bushes, brushing petals against the stone path. A girl stepped inside. She could not have been more than 15. Her hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, as if she had done it without looking in a mirror. She wore an oversized flannel jacket, clearly not hers. It hung long past her fingertips. Catherine recognized that kind of jacket. The girl stood just inside the door, eyes red, jaw tight. She did not cry. She looked as if she had run out of tears days ago. "Welcome," Catherine said softly. The girl nodded but did not speak. "Would you like to sit by the fire?" Catherine asked. The girl swallowed and nodded again. She walked to the small table nearest the hearth. The chair creaked as she sat. She placed both hands flat on the table as if steadying herself in a moving car. Catherine brought her a cup of tea without asking which blend she preferred. The steam curled upward gently, scented with chamomile, rose petals, and a whisper of lemon balm. "What is your name?" Catherine asked her after setting the cup down. "Katie," she whispered. The name trembled on her lips. Catherine sat across from her. She did not rush the silence. After a few minutes, Katie spoke. "My brother was 18. The words were plain, matter-of-fact, as if she were reporting the weather. "He was driving home from work. His truck blew a tire." She paused, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. "It hit a tree." The fire popped softly. "He wasn't supposed to die," she said suddenly. The composure cracked. "He had just graduated from high school. He was supposed to take me to the big city when I turned 16. He was supposed to teach me how to drive a stick." Her voice broke on the last word. Catherine reached forward, but did not touch her. "You loved him very much." Katie let out a sharp breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "He was my person." She pulled at the sleeves of the jacket. "This was his. Mama wanted to pack up his room. I couldn't let her. It still smells like him." Her eyes filled again, but still she fought the tears. Karen appeared with a small plate, 2 oatmeal cookies still warm. She set them down gently. "No one should grieve on an empty stomach," Karen said kindly, and then retreated. Katie stared into her tea. "I keep thinking," she whispered, "if he had left 5 minutes later, or if the tire hadn't blown, or if he had taken Dad's car instead, or—" Catherine shook her head gently. "Our minds try to bargain with what we cannot change." Katie finally looked up. "It was so sudden." The word "sudden" hung in the air like a bruise. "Yes," Catherine said. "Sudden grief feels like being thrown into cold water. You don't get to prepare." Tears slipped down Katie's face at last. Not loud sobbing, just quiet, steady tears that had been waiting. "I don't know who I am without him," she admitted. Catherine let the silence hold them. After a while, she spoke softly. "When someone we love dies, we think we have lost the future we were supposed to have. The rides, the jokes, the plans." Katie nodded. "But love," Catherine continued, "does not end at a tree on a roadside. It changes form. It moves inside you." Katie's brow furrowed. "He taught you things," Catherine said gently. "How to laugh, how to be brave, maybe how to be stubborn. A faint smile touched her lips. Katie gave the smallest, fragile smile in return. "He's part of you," Catherine continued. "That cannot be taken in an accident." The firelight flickered against the young girl's face. "You don't have to stop loving him to keep living," Catherine added, "and you don't have to be strong all of the time." Katie finally reached for the tea. She wrapped both hands around the cup as if absorbing its warmth into her bones. "I'm scared I'll forget his voice," she whispered. "You won't," Catherine said from the nearby chair, "but you may hear it differently." Katie turned toward her. "Sometimes," Catherine continued, "it may come as a memory that makes you laugh in the middle of the store. Sometimes it comes as courage when you're about to do something hard." Katie swallowed. "And sometimes," Catherine added gently, "it comes as the strength to keep you going when you don't think you can." The girl closed her eyes and let the tears fall freely now, not frantic, just honest. The bell did not ring again that afternoon. The world outside moved on, cars passing, clouds drifting, but inside the tea room, time slowed. After a long while, Katie stood to go. She looked smaller than when she entered, but lighter somehow, as if she had set down a weight she had been carrying alone. "Can I come back?" she asked. Catherine smiled warmly. "The door will open when you need it." Katie pulled her brother's jacket close around her shoulders. She stuck her hands deep inside the pockets. Her hand touched something that she had not noticed before. She pulled out an envelope. On the front of it simply said, "Sis." She opened the envelope, and inside, in her brother's handwriting, were the words, "Sis, don't let anyone push you around. You are tougher than you think, but I've always got your back. Love, your favorite big brother." Katie pressed the letter close to her heart and tears ran down her cheeks. She smiled and looked toward the fire. "I miss you," she whispered softly. A warmth spread through the tea room and enveloped around Katie. She tucked the letter back inside the envelope and put it in her pocket. She stepped towards the door. The wind had quieted, and though the road that took her brother had ended at a tree, her road, though painful and uncertain, continued forward. The bell rang gently as she left. Inside, the tea kettle began to warm again. 15 years later, the bell at the Enchanted Tea Room rang again on a December afternoon, just 2 days before Christmas. Outside, snow drifted quietly over the stone path, covering the roses in white lace. The world felt hushed, the way it only does right before Christmas, when memory and longing sit close together. Catherine looked up from the hearth. Katie stepped inside. Not 15 now, a woman, a wife and mother of 2 young girls. But in her eyes, just for a moment, she was the 15-year-old girl who had lost her brother 2 days before Christmas. She wore a wool coat, but beneath it, tucked close to her heart, was something invisible, a memory, a voice, a laugh. Catherine did not ask what brought her there. She simply guided her to the chair nearest the fire. Karen had brought an orange scone to go with the cup of cinnamon orange tea that Catherine had made, warm and bright against the winter air. Beulah had set a small evergreen sprig beside the saucer on the table. "You're thinking of him," Catherine said gently. Katie nodded. "December and Christmas time," she whispered. The fire crackled softly. She wrapped her hands around the cup and stared into the steam. It rose in delicate curls, shifting and reforming like something almost alive. "He would have loved my little family," she said. "He would have been a fun uncle, one who teased and protected and showed up at every occasion." Her voice softened. "I still hear his laugh sometimes." Catherine leaned forward. "Tell me about it." And she did. She described how he could make her laugh when she didn't want to, how he cheered at her volleyball games, how he drove her to school, how she was going to move with him to the big city, how he had dreams bigger than the town he grew up in. The room grew warmer as she spoke, and then something changed. The air shifted, not in a dramatic way, not with thunder or light, just a closeness, the kind of closeness that feels like something stepping into the room quietly and standing just behind her. She felt it before she understood it. Her chest tightened, but not with pain, with recognition. She closed her eyes, and there it was, his laugh. Not loud, not echoing, just a memory so clear it felt present. She saw him sledding with her down a hill, laughing loudly as the snow blew up in their faces. She heard him teasing her. She felt the way he used to walk slightly ahead of her, always scanning the world like her personal bodyguard. The steam from the teacup curled higher, catching the firelight, and for a moment, just a moment, it felt as though heaven was not far away at all. And it was at that moment when she heard her brother's voice. "Hey, sis, you don't have to carry that day alone forever. I know you still replay it sometimes, the accident, December 23rd. I know Christmas has never felt the same after that. I know part of you was frozen at 15 and has been holding that young girl ever since. But sis, none of that was yours to fix. You were just my little sister. I would never want you to keep carrying the weight of something that happened in a moment I couldn't control. If I were there, I'd probably still tease you a lot, you know that. I'd grin and say, 'You still taking life so seriously?' And then I'd laugh, that laugh you remember, the one that made you roll your eyes even when you didn't want to smile. I remember those volleyball games you played. I came to watch you when nobody else would. I was loud on purpose. You pretended you were embarrassed, but I know you liked it. I saw the way you looked for me in the stands. I carried you out when you hurt your leg and could barely walk, and I took you home. I always watched out for you. That never stopped. I still watch out for you. Sis, I would have loved your husband and your girls. I would have been a fun uncle. I would have showed up. I would have made too much noise at holidays. I would have told them stories about how stubborn their mama was at 15. And the big city? Yeah, I had big plans. But that doesn't mean your life stopped where mine did. You were never meant to follow my road. You were meant to build your own. And look at you. You grew up. You loved deeply. You became a wife. You became a mother. You carry tenderness in you because you learned how fragile life is. I see that in you. I see how you hold people gently. You love your family and friends deeply. How you write about grief with truth. How you make space for sorrow in your stories. That came from somewhere, sis. It came from loving big, even when it hurt. Christmas time isn't shattered forever. It just holds two things now, joy and memory, and you don't have to choose between them. When you hear my laugh in your mind, that's not you being foolish. That's love remembering. When you dream about visiting me in heaven, that's hope doing what hope does. And when you sit quietly in December and your chest tightens, I need you to know something. You were the best little sister. I was proud of you then, and I'm proud of you now. You don't have to keep proving anything. You don't have to keep carrying December like it's unfinished. Live fully, sis. Laugh loudly sometimes. Let Christmas time be warm again, filled with family and love. And when your time comes, not rushed, not soon, but when it's meant to be, I'll be there with that same big grin. You'll recognize it. And sis, always remember, your big brother loves you. Katie opened her eyes. Tears slipped down her face, but they were different tears, not shattered, not sharp, but softened. He's not gone from you, Catherine said quietly. Love did not end at the scene of the accident. It just changed rooms. Katie let that settle into her heart. The door of the tea room did not open. No one entered, but the space beside her felt like it had just been filled. She imagined him watching her daughters grow. She imagined him laughing at their jokes. She imagined him cheering from somewhere unseen at their milestones, the way he once cheered at hers. And in that warm, firelit room, she understood something gentle. He did not get to be their uncle on earth, but love does not lose its nature just because it changes its address. She breathed in deeply. "Someday," she whispered, "I'll see him again." The fire crackled in agreement. Outside, the snow continued to fall, quiet, steady, covering the world in peace. When Katie rose to leave, she felt lighter. The grief was still there. It always would be. But it was no longer a shattered Christmas time. It was a sacred one. The bell rang softly as she stepped back into the cold. And just before the door closed, she could have sworn she heard it. A familiar laugh, not far away, just ahead. Again, the bell rang softly at the Enchanted Tea Room, but this time Katie did not look like the 15-year-old girl who had once walked in wearing her brother's flannel jacket, or a wife and the mother of 2 young girls. She was older now, a woman with silver flowing through her hair, still a wife, a mother, but also a grandmother. December had come and gone many times since that shattered Christmas time decades ago. Yet the air still shifted every year when the calendar turned to the 23rd of December. Catherine welcomed her without words. The fire was already lit. Cinnamon and evergreen scented the room. A single white candle waited at the center of the table. "You knew I was coming," Katie said with a faint smile. "The tea room always remembers," Catherine replied gently. Katie sat in the same chair she had chosen decades earlier. She placed her hands flat on the table the same way she had at 15, though now they were steadier. "I still hear him sometimes," she said quietly. "His laugh, the way he said, 'Hey, sis.'" Beulah entered the room, older still but sharp-eyed, and she placed a small envelope beside Katie's teacup. "I found this tucked in a book," she said. "Seems it was waiting for you." Katie frowned slightly. The envelope was simple, no stamp, no address, just one word written in familiar, crooked handwriting: "Sis." Her breath caught. "It's not possible," she whispered. Catherine's voice was calm. "This has been waiting for you, again." With trembling fingers, Katie unfolded the page. The handwriting was unmistakable, teenage loops and hurried strokes. It was the note he had written years ago, one she had forgotten. She thought it was lost. The words were simple. "Sis, don't let anyone push you around. You are tougher than you think, but I've always got your back. Love, your favorite big brother." A laugh escaped her before the tears came. "He always signed it like that," she said. The fire crackled warmly. He hadn't delivered the letter from heaven. He had delivered it from memory, from the boy he had been. And suddenly, Katie understood something that had taken decades to soften. In his short life, he had already said what he needed to say. He had already loved her well. The tea room felt full, not with a visible presence, but with something steadier. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she saw him as he had been, leaning against his pickup truck, grin wide, shoulders relaxed, telling her jokes that made her laugh. She heard the echo of his laughter, not as a wound this time, but as a gift. "I'm okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure whether she was telling him or herself. Catherine poured more tea. "You carried him all these years," she said softly. "Today, you let him carry you." Katie pressed the letter to her chest. Christmas outside was bright with snow. Inside, it no longer felt shattered. It felt held. When she stood to leave, she slipped the letter into her coat pocket, close to her heart, where the old flannel jacket had once rested. At the door, she paused. "See you later, big brother," she said aloud with a small, steady smile. And somewhere in the quiet chambers of memory, not loud, not dramatic, but familiar and warm. She could almost hear him laugh. If this story brought you a moment of comfort, you're always welcome to come back. Like and subscribe so the Tea Room finds you again, and the Enchanted Tea Room will meet you again here for the next story. Until next time, the kettle will be warm and the table will be waiting.